The woman who recorded the greatest survival anthem in history needed that song to survive. Without it, her career was already over. By the late 1970s, Gloria Gaynor had been crowned the queen of disco and then quietly dethroned. The hits had dried up. Most of her records weren't even charting anymore. The industry had moved on. She was fading into the past as just another club singer whose moment had come and gone. And then one song, tucked away on the back of a record nobody expected anything from, gave her a second chance. But here's what almost nobody knows. That second chance was only the beginning. Because Gloria Gaynor didn't just sing, "I Will Survive." She spent the next 40 years living it through a marriage that trapped her, a career that collapsed a second time, and an industry that told her she was too old to matter. As she says now, she told the whole world for 40 years that she would survive. She just never told anyone how. This is that story. Chapter 1. The Queen Who Was Forgotten. Gloria Gaynor was born Gloria Fowles in the housing projects of Newark, New Jersey, in 1943. She grew up poor, without her father in the home, singing along to the radio and dreaming of a stage she had no obvious path to reach. She spent years grinding through nightclub bands up and down the East Coast before anyone in the business noticed her. Then, in 1974, she caught fire. She took a Jackson 5 song called "Never Can Say Goodbye" and reimagined it as a pulsing disco record, and it became the very first song ever to top Billboard's brand new dance chart. It reached the top 10 on the pop charts too. Practically overnight, the clubs crowned her the queen of disco. Her album ran 3 songs together into one non-stop 19-minute dance marathon, a format DJs had never heard before. She was, for a moment, the future of music. And then the moment passed. Over the next few years, Gaynor released something like 18 more singles. A few scraped the bottom of the charts. Most didn't chart at all. Disco was famous for minting stars and then forgetting them, and it was quietly forgetting her. By 1978, the Queen of Disco had become a niche act, respected, still working, but slipping out of the spotlight she'd only recently owned. She was running out of chances. What she didn't know was that her career was about to get one last shot, and that it would arrive disguised as a throwaway. Chapter 2. The Second Chance Nobody Believed In. Around the same time, disaster struck. During a performance, Gaynor took a terrible fall on stage and did catastrophic damage to her spine, an injury so severe she would need surgery and a back brace, and that would haunt her for decades. So picture the situation. A singer the industry had already begun writing off, now physically broken, recording what everyone assumed would be a minor release. The label paired her with 2 former Motown men, Dino Fekaris and Freddie Perrin, to cut a cover of a song called "Substitute." That was the one the label believed in. The song they buried on the B-side, recorded almost as an afterthought, with Gaynor singing in a back brace, was called "I Will Survive." You know which one won. Club DJs and radio flipped the record over, found the B-side, and refused to let it go. Substitute never even reached the Hot 100. "I Will Survive" went all the way to number 1, sold more than 14 million copies, won a Grammy, and was eventually preserved by the Library of Congress as a piece of American history. The head of the label had hoped it might be a modest comeback. Instead, it became one of the most beloved songs ever recorded. The song that was supposed to be nothing gave Gloria Gaynor everything back. It was the ultimate second chance. But a second chance and a happy ending are not the same thing. Because at the exact moment, the world fell in love with an anthem about a woman finding her strength. The woman singing it was about to lose hers. Chapter 3. Living the opposite of the song. In 1979, right as "I Will Survive" conquered the world, Gaynor married the man who became her manager, Linwood Simon. And what looked from the outside like a fairy tale became, by her own account, something much darker. For roughly 25 years, she has said, he controlled nearly every part of her life and career. He booked her on relentless overseas tour, By some accounts, more than 300 shows a year, keeping her far from home. She has since suggested the punishing schedule was a way to keep her out of the way. Night after night, in city after city, she walked onto stages around the world and sang the most powerful song of female independence ever written, while feeling privately that she had very little independence at all. Think about that irony. The voice that gave millions of people the courage to walk away, to stand on their own, to refuse to be diminished, belonged to a woman who felt she couldn't do those things in her own life. She was performing survival while quietly struggling to do it. For years she stayed, and then finally she found the strength she'd been singing about all along. Chapter 4. Walking Away. In her early 60s, after more than 2 decades in that marriage, Gloria Gaynor finally left. She ended the marriage and the management deal in one move, and for the first time in her adult life, she was free to steer her own career. There was just one problem. She'd stepped away from everything at an age when the music industry had no interest in her. She went looking for someone to manage her and couldn't find anyone willing to take on a disco singer in her 60s. Think about how brutal that is. The woman behind one of the most recognizable songs on earth, and the business treated her as finished. So she did what survivors do. Unable to hire a manager, she hired an assistant, a woman named Stephanie Gold, who slowly grew into the manager role, and who, crucially, actually listened to what Gaynor wanted. And there was one thing Gaynor had wanted for years, a dream her previous manager had blocked over and over. She wanted to make a gospel album, and getting to make it would become the greatest second chance of her entire life. Chapter 5. Back on Top. This is the part of the story that turns everything around. Gaynor had wanted to record a gospel album for decades, music rooted in the faith that had carried her through the fall, the surgeries, the marriage, and the wilderness years. But when she set out to actually make it, she found almost no support in the music industry. She was in her 70s. Everyone assumed her story was long over. She made it anyway. In 2019, she released Testimony, a deeply personal gospel record with songs she'd written or co-written about her own life. One of them was titled, fittingly, Back on Top. And at the 2020 Grammy Awards, Testimony won Gloria Gaynor the second Grammy of her career, roughly 40 years after her first, and at an age when the business had declared her irrelevant. She wasn't done. In 2023, she became the subject of an acclaimed documentary about her life. In 2025, more than 50 years after she first stepped onto a stage, she received the Kennedy Center Honor, one of the highest recognitions an American artist can be given. And she's spoken about doing CrossFit several times a week in her 80s, still moving, still going, still refusing to stop. The song gave her a second chance in 1979. She spent the next 4 decades earning it. So when people call I Will Survive a breakup song, they're missing the biggest story of all. Because the real survival didn't happen in the lyrics. It happened in the life of the woman who sang them, a forgotten club singer who got one last shot, lost her freedom just as she found fame, walked away with nothing in her 60s, and climbed all the way back to a Grammy stage in her 70s. She told the world for 40 years that she would survive. What she's shown us since is how, one second chance at a time and never, ever staying down. Now we'd love to hear from you. What's the song that gave you a second chance? The one that got you through the hardest stretch of your life? Tell us in the comments. We read every single one, and the best stories become the next video.